And I get the chance to take off my armor, crawl out from under the shell that I'm so comfortable in, and just say it like it is. I get to introduce Derek Laliberte. Now, if you see Derek's name, I've always just called him Derek because his name was really intimidating as to how to pronounce. So I'm proud of myself that I actually know it's Laliberte. He is a very dynamic speaker and also has a resume that is extremely impressive. He came to Fort Wayne about 20 years ago with the hopes of being a collegiate soccer life-changing athlete. And he got much more than he bargained for. He met the person of his dreams, his soulmate, his best friend, Amy. They just celebrated 15 years of marriage. Yeah. He has 2 kids. Chase is 10, Avery's 14. He has 6 years of sobriety. He's the chief sales officer for a company named Rufel and Hoffman Weber Construction. I'm not good at following a script or a prompter, so whatever comes out, I apologize. He was named one of Fort Wayne's 40 under 40 back in 2015, and they live in Columbia City. Anyway, it is my honor to introduce to you and to hear the story of Derek Laliberte. And again, my thanks. Grab what you want, leave when you have to, but know that you are not alone and that you're going to leave here empowered, informed, and embraced. Thank you.
Good job. Is this thing on? I like to just get right into these. But before I just get right into it, I'm going to tell you a quick story. Right after high school, my grandfather had this company, and it was a lumping company, and nobody knows what lumping is. But lumping is people that unload canisters that come over from overseas. And it's really a crappy job, but it pays pretty good. So me and my 4 high school buddies would go to work every single day, and we'd unload these canisters. You just basically take a box and you put it on a pallet. And then you get paid a pretty good chunk of change, which really sort of feeds whatever it is that you're trying to do after work, which me and my buddies just wanted to go drinking. But our boss, which wasn't my grandpa, was the guy that sort of managed a crew. He was like the foreman. His name, I don't even know his name, but we called him Delano because he was from a town called Delano. And Delano was always hungover. I mean, every day. Just hung over. And I don't know if he had really a lot going on in his life, but I remember all summer him talking about going to see this guy named Van Morrison. Some of you know Van Morrison. He couldn't wait to see Van Morrison. He talked about Van Morrison every single day for 3 months. Can't wait to see Van Morrison. It's going to be the best weekend ever. And he put so much hope and expectation in seeing Van Morrison that when he came in the next Monday, his face was so red. His head was down on the table, and I'm like, Delano, talk to me. How was Van Morrison? And he looks up. I mean, his eyes were just completely bloodshot, and he goes, he sucked. And I'm like, what? You've been looking forward to this all? And he's like, yeah. He's got all these hit songs. He just stood there, sang them, and didn't do an encore and left. So I drank the whole weekend. I'm like, well, that's not really a shock. But the funny thing is, I laughed at him, thinking, oh, that's never going to be me. Turns out it actually was me. But before I got here, they're like, what kind of microphone do you want? Do you want a microphone or do you want a handheld microphone? And I thought, well, I'm going to read what I wrote. And I thought about Delano. And I don't just want to stand there. So I better opt for this microphone. So I'm just going to jump right in. That was actually funny. You didn't laugh. So right now I've already deducted points from my speech when somebody asked how it went. Okay, you ready? Here we go. I drank the vodka bottles. I drank the vodka bottles on the plane. Captain Whitaker, on the 3 nights before the accident, October 11th, October 11th, October 12th, And October 13th and 14th, I was intoxicated. I drank all of those days. I drank in excess. On the morning of the accident, I was drunk. I'm drunk now. I'm drunk right now. Because I'm an alcoholic. Those lines are from this movie called Flight. And Captain Whitaker is played by Denzel Washington. And if you haven't seen that movie, sorry. Spoiler alert. March 13th, 2014. This is a letter I wrote to my wife 5 days removed from my last drink. We had not spoken since. Amy, I just got off the phone with Mark. Mark's the pastor that married us. And I had to lock the door to my office and turn on music so no one would hear me sobbing. It's really amazing that you can have a conversation with someone who can hear the awfulness of what you're telling them, only for them to just pray for you on the phone. In all of my life, I have never felt I needed to feel forgiven or that I wasn't alone. But right there in that moment, it felt different. After we prayed, Mark asked me for a favor. He asked me that throughout all of this, that I not take it so hard on myself. That we are all human. That we have all made mistakes, and whether or not this happens again, we're always going to make them. Always. And for just a moment, I felt this sigh of relief. I could breathe. For the first time in 5 days, I feel as if I don't need to know all these answers. I don't need to control every situation. I just need to have a little faith. I know that I may need forever to gain your forgiveness, but I don't want it until I've earned it. But today was a good day because I felt God's forgiveness. And since I have no idea how I'm ever going to forgive myself, that felt a little surreal. And just when I thought I couldn't cry another tear, I started sobbing again. So before God, I have to confess that I have never loved you like I love you now. And regardless of whatever happens to us, I will never forget about what I did to make me realize it. When you have to ask for God's forgiveness first, the mistakes you've made are always far more severe than they've ever been before. I told your brother this morning, I told your parents last night, and I told Mark today. My path is getting clearer, and that path is leading me to church on Monday nights to this program called Celebrate Recovery. I don't have all the answers, but I promise you that I won't lie to you and tell you it's never going to happen again. I've done that before, and I won't do something wrong, but I will always do my best to be this man you want in your life, a man that deserves you, a role model for our kids, a friend, and someone who will never put you in a situation like you experienced on Saturday night. I read this quote yesterday that stuck with me. And I thought it was really relative to what I'm going through. It said, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. So, today I'm going to tell you that I'm an alcoholic. And all I can do is start where I am, use what I have, and do what I can. I know if I just focus on that, Maybe God can fix this. And I can be the man I know that I am and not the man I'm afraid to be. The last craft beer I ever drank that I remember on that night was called Live a Rich Life. I kept it. I will never forget what that really means. I love you and the kids more than I can show you right now, but my definition of living richly has forever changed. That was 6 years ago. 6 years ago. Thank you. 6 years ago, I really believed that I was an alcoholic. I mean, why wouldn't I? 5 days earlier, I got so drunk and blacked out to the point of no return. No return. I really thought the booze was the problem. But now I know it was just gasoline right on that fire. September is recovery month. And recovery is a special place. It's special because those that have taken on recovery and have worked the steps have something in common. We all know it's not easy. It never goes as planned. But most of all, recovery is messy. It's really, really messy. Thanks for clapping. All right. 6 years ago, I found Celebrate Recovery. 6 years ago was the last time I had a drop to drink. 6 years ago, I started discovering the true definition of that word, drunk. This is probably the moment that I'm supposed to introduce myself. I know Mary did. She did a great job, by the way. Let's give it up for Mary. What a story. But I should probably say something that provides you with some credibility. But the truth is, I'm so angry. I'm broken. And I need Jesus just as much today as I needed him back then. When I was certain my wife was going to leave me. And I'm still waiting for him to roll out the next chapter of his plan for my life. And maybe that's why you're here. Waiting on his plan. Desperately wanting to know his plan. Well, take solace in this. You might not know it, but at least he has one. So here's another spoiler alert. I'm drunk. I'm drunk right now. What does drunk even mean? How do you define it? I know what I used to think it meant. I know what you probably think it means. But I'm not sure anymore. Back in those early days of recovery, struggling with the alcohol was much easier to focus on. It was just one thing. Just one thing. And please don't take that the wrong way. There are truly people who severely struggle with alcoholism. And by no means am I downgrading addiction, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm an addict. I'll always be an addict. But please allow me to explain what I mean the only way I know how, through a movie reference. I know my man Clinton in the back's going, oh, another movie reference. How many of you watched the movie, have seen the movie, and if you haven't seen the movie, just raise your hand anyways. Shawshank Redemption. Okay. Just in case you're wondering, I looked it up. It's on TNT tonight, TBS tomorrow, TNT next weekend. It's on CMT, AMT, AMC, CBS. It's all over the place. Okay, good. Do you remember Brooks Hatlin? Okay, well, when Brooksy was finally released from prison after serving nearly his entire life behind bars, like 50 years, he was so afraid of the unknown, he talked about robbing the grocery store he was working at so they would send him back to prison. Like I said, if you've seen the movie, you know who Brooks is and what happened to his character. But the point I'm making is once I figured out how to stop drinking, I was afraid, like Brooks, of dealing with what comes next. So how do you define drunk? It was probably 1998, and I thought my high school girlfriend was cheating on me. So I kicked a dent in my car and I knocked out the headlight at a party. Turns out I was drunk. In 2000, I moved to Indiana from Minnesota to play soccer. Things didn't go as planned, so I got really drunk. In 2002, I got arrested for drinking and driving. The cops told me I was really drunk. In 2003, I thought some guy was hitting on my fiance at the bar, so I punched him in the face and fought his entire crew in the street. He actually wasn't hitting on her. I was just really drunk. In 2004, I blacked out on a romantic weekend away with my fiance. Turns out I was super drunk. In 2005, on her wedding night, I didn't drink anything, so I wouldn't be drunk. In 2006, mostly on the road for work, just totally drunk. In 2007, we went to Summerfest in Milwaukee. There's really only one thing to do at Summerfest. We saw a few concerts. I threw up in the bathroom at the venue. Turns out I was really drunk. 2008, basically through 2013, I discovered craft beer. And it was a whole new kind of drunk. And finally, on March 8th, 2014, I got so drunk at a euchre tournament with my wife that I came home in anger and completely trashed our house. Best part is, this is the best part, I blacked out and couldn't remember a single thing, and March 9th is my birthday. Happy birthday! That's my best Frosty the Snowman. Trying to liven it up a little bit, okay? And that's what drunk used to mean to me, but not anymore. It's morphed into something completely different. It's anger, it's anxiety, it's depression. It's now the stability of my mental health and all those things that I feed it with. So let me crack one open. It's the state of our economy. It's our political landscape. It's people assuming I think the same way they do. Maybe it's a debate over wearing a mask or taking a vaccine. Or it's the way I feel about hearing our leaders talk to our country. We're not even through politics yet, I'm already hammered. It's a Facebook debate. It's racial injustice. It's the NFL and NBA taking a stand or not taking a stand. It's my reaction to a mess the kids left behind. It's running from practice to the grocery store to, our mower broke down. Or it's sex, but we can't talk about sex. Maybe it's the way you drive. Maybe it's resentment because my father died. Maybe it's cancel culture. Maybe it's gun violence. It could be the way we treat each other. I had a crappy day at work. Or I got too competitive on the basketball court. It's too much to do and not enough time. It's the constant fear of missing out. It's suffering a panic attack. I'm so drunk right now. It's everything. It's all the above. It's messy. It's raw. And it's the true journey of recovery. Because recovery isn't PG-13. Recovery's rated R. I really didn't want to come up here and give you a testimony. I really just wanted to preach. At Celebrate Recovery, they tell you can't preach, just give the lesson. I know, I led Celebrate Recovery. Okay. I really didn't want to get into the details of my story. I've mentioned or told my story so many times, it feels like a pop song you can't believe is still on the radio. After like a year, it's like, man, is that thing still playing? 6 years. Because this isn't a story about my glory. It's a story about his. But in this setting, I got to give you some context. Because it's really critical for what I'm about to share with you. Everything that is good in my life is a direct reflection of God's grace. Everything, because I didn't deserve any of it. He always provides. Bob Goff, who is my homie, met him once, tweeted this week, "Grace never seems fair until you need a little." I love that quote. Recovery is about one thing. Spoiler alert, it's right behind me. Even after I married my wife, I carried around this resentment towards living here. I hated Indiana. I'm sorry. I just hated it so much. I never got to see my teams play. I never went fishing anymore. I haven't seen my old friends in forever. I can't tell you how many times I shouted at God for bringing me here. Why did you do this to me? And then, sometime in early April of 2014, after barely communicating with my wife and the uncertainty of our marriage and our future looming, I received a message from her. It said, "I love you, and I know in my heart you are the man for me and would do anything for us. We support you fully and want you to know you are a great father and a great husband." I never promised I was going to quit this time. The only thing different was that I surrendered. I once heard somebody say, God can't be explained, otherwise he would just be a really cool guy. Well, this wasn't something I could explain. After a month of recovery, just 1 month, in April, there it is, hope. For years, I was so resentful of living here, resentful to God and resentful towards my wife. This wasn't my plan. And it's true, you know, if you want to make God laugh, you should tell him your plans. Because God used my wife. He used my wife and the uncertainty of our marriage to bring me closer to him. And all this time, I thought I was moving to Indiana to play in the MLS. And most of you are probably like, what is the MLS? Later on, I went on to lead our Celebrate Recovery at the chapel. And for a couple of years, the amount of hope I got in the form of return on investment was enough to keep me going for a lifetime. I met people who literally died of an overdose. I sat with fathers who saved their child's life by injecting them with Narcan. I have friends who went to prison, friends who suffered from abuse. I met people who have struggled with porn addictions, who've had affairs, who went through awful divorces. I met people who have literally been involved in serious crimes. They've dealt drugs, been involved in gang violence, who have failed suicide attempts, who inspired me, who motivated me, who never judged me, who supported me, who confided in me, who loved me. And all of them have been witness to the light. I mean, every single one of them, the same perspective as I do. We all share that one single thing in common: hope. These people are hope dealers. Standing on the corner, straight slanging hope. Hope. Hey man, you need a hit? You want some of this here hope? Hope that you will be rescued. Hope that you will be renewed. Hope that you will be reassured. Hope that you will be resurrected. Hope that you will be reunited. Hope that you will be restored. Hope that he will return. Hope, my man. We got an unlimited supply. This is what I meant when I said I wanted just to preach. Hope. It's the one single thing I want to talk about constantly, because anybody that's known recovery believes in it. Wherever you find a recovery program, you will find it. I'm filled with it. I've witnessed God work too many miracles in not only my life, but others' lives. Andy Dufresne, Shawshank, again, once said that hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things. But I like this one better. Now faith is hope and confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. When I first started recovery, up until the time I stepped down from leading a recovery program, I'd either ask myself or I'd be asked, hey, is there a testimony tonight at Celebrate Recovery? If so, hey, could you tell me what the topic is? And then I would just kind of chuckle, like, because I knew the answer would be the difference on whether someone might come to listen or just stay home. Hey man, if it's another person who struggles with pride or anxiety, I just can't go because it's impossible to relate. Just sit down and listen, bud. After a few years, those are the testimonies. Those are the ones that are going to get you because it's probably their third, fourth, maybe it's even their fifth iteration of their testimony. If you've ever taken a hit of hope, pay attention. These are the stories that are filled with it. Pride, mental health, codependence. Those aren't always the reasons people walk through the door of a recovery program. They're the reasons that lie underneath that addiction. And as the ministry leader of Celebrate Recovery, like somebody told me I need to say, I just looked at him and said, see you Monday, which was the night of Celebrate Recovery. For those of you starting recovery, supporting someone in recovery, or well into your own recovery journey, I want to encourage you to tell your story more. Be open about it, be vulnerable, and watch how God works in your life. The same way God used my wife Amy to bring me closer to Him, He is going to use you. Have you ever been used before? Being used sucks, but not when it's God. If you're looking for a sign of how God will use you, take a look around. There's 30 some odd booths back there loaded with ways God can use you. Look at the way God used Jennifer and mom of an addict. Her last name is Hope. I mean, if you really need a sign, it's Hope. In the middle of a pandemic, right here in the heart of civil unrest, in a world that needs Jesus more than anything. And sometimes the only way I know how to show someone is by telling my story and slanging a little hope. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to share your story. And I'm not talking about putting your story on Facebook. I'm talking about sharing your story with the ones you love. I can't tell you how many times I've been contacted by someone who has a son or a daughter or a friend or a wife or a husband, and they want me to talk to them. And I'm happy to do it. But you also need to do it. And I know you've tried, but you need to go with them. You need to work on you as well. Seek that sovereignty of God together. Every time you tell your story, every single time without fail, this is exactly what happens. The room's going to clear out, people are going to leave, and then out of nowhere, boom, you're going to make eye contact with some guy in the back corner. It's the one person who's been waiting for a sign from God to come clean. And when they approach you, it will sound a lot like this. Hey man, can I talk to you? What you said is something that I really can relate to. And make no mistake, right there in that moment, that's hope. That's hope for you and that's hope for them. There's one line that I purposely left out of that exchange between Captain Whitaker and the hearing board. So another spoiler alert. Just before he confesses his alcoholism to a group of his peers facing certain judgment, Captain Whitaker says these three words: God, help me. Peter once said something similar as he stepped out of the boat to approach Jesus on the water. Lord, save me. If you know the story, you'll know that as soon as Peter begins to sink in the water, Jesus immediately reaches out his hand and catches him. You of little faith, why did you doubt? So if you're here tonight and you're doubting, check your faith. Check your faith. Thank you for attending Recovery Rocks 2020. And thank you, Jennifer, for putting this all together. It's just an incredible event. If you want to hear more about my story, I'm actually going to be on Restoration Road tomorrow with Mitch Cruz at 7:30 in the morning. And if you think of someone who could benefit from hearing this talk, I'm actually giving it again at Celebrate Recovery on Monday night. So, thank you.